There comes a moment in your life when you have to ask yourself a simple but powerful question. Why do I let people have so much power over me? Think about it. A stranger cuts you off in traffic, and suddenly your whole mood shifts. Someone makes a careless comment, and you replay it in your head for hours. You walk into a room, someone gives you a look you don't like, and now you're carrying that energy with you all day. Why? Why do you hand over your peace so easily, as if it were free to anyone who wants to take it? The truth is this. No one can make you angry. No one can make you lose your cool. No one can disturb your inner world unless you give them permission. And here's the hard reality most people never face. Anger is not a reaction, it's a decision. You choose it, you feed it, you allow it to consume you. Which means if you can choose to get angry, you can also choose not to. Now imagine this. What would your life look like if you became untouchable? If no insult could shake you, no disrespect could unbalance you, no provocation could pull you out of your power. Imagine the freedom in that. Imagine walking through the world with a calm so unshakable people wonder what secret you're hiding. That is not fantasy, it's discipline, it's strength. It's the kind of mastery very few ever reach, but those who do become unstoppable. Most people spend their lives being dragged by emotions like puppets on a string. They are slaves to anger, prisoners to irritation, victims of other people's words and actions. But you are not here to be like most people. You are here to build a mindset so strong that nothing and no one can penetrate it. Because let me tell you something. The most dangerous person in the room is not the loudest, not the angriest, not the one throwing punches. The most dangerous person in the room is the one who doesn't flinch, the one who cannot be rattled, the one who looks chaos in the eye and chooses calm. So tonight we are not here to talk about controlling others. We are here to master ourselves. We are going to break down exactly how to never again hand over your peace to anyone. And when you understand this, when you live this, you will no longer be a victim of anger. You will be the master of it. You will walk through the fire and remain untouched. You will command respect not by force but by presence. And that, my friends, is real power. Most people believe that anger just happens to them. Something goes wrong. Someone says the wrong thing, and they snap. They justify it with phrases like, that person made me angry, or I couldn't help it. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Anger is not something that others do to you. Anger is something you do to yourself. It is not automatic. It is not inevitable. It is a choice. And until you own that, you will always live at the mercy of other people's behavior. Think about it. Two people can face the exact same situation and respond completely differently. Someone gets cut off in traffic. One person explodes, honks the horn, screams out the window. Another person takes a breath, lets it go, and keeps driving in peace. The event was the same. The difference was the choice. That pause, that split second between what happens and how you respond, that is where your power lives. But here's the problem. Most of us have trained ourselves to react without thinking. We've built habits of anger. We've practiced losing our cool so many times that it feels automatic. But just because it feels automatic doesn't mean it is. It just means you've conditioned yourself into believing that's the only way to respond. The truth is, you can unlearn it. You can train yourself to respond differently. It starts with awareness and the courage to stop blaming others for what you feel. Ask yourself, how many times have you allowed someone else's actions to dictate your emotions? Someone ignores your message and suddenly your mood sinks. A coworker criticizes your work and you spend the rest of the day irritated. A stranger makes a rude comment and you're replaying it over and over in your head. Each time this happens, you are handing over control of your emotional state. You're saying, here, take my peace, take my focus, take my energy. And the worst part, most of the time the person who provoked you has already forgotten about it. They've moved on. Meanwhile, you're the one stuck, carrying the weight of anger they planted. You've let them win without even realizing it. Now let me ask you this. Why would you give anyone that much power over you? Why would you allow another human being, especially someone who doesn't even matter in your life, to dictate how you feel inside your own mind? That's like leaving the keys to your home with a stranger and being surprised when they trash the place. If your peace of mind is your home, then you have to guard the door. And that starts with recognizing that anger is not an invader that storms in uninvited. It's you opening the door and letting it in. Here's the thing about anger. It tricks you. In the moment, it feels powerful. It feels like you're standing up for yourself, like you're taking control. But in reality, it's the opposite. Anger is weakness disguised as strength. It shows you don't have control over yourself. It reveals that anyone, with the right words or actions, can pull your strings like a puppet. Real strength is not exploding. Real strength is restraint. Real strength is being so grounded that no one else's chaos can shake your calm. Imagine walking into a room where people are gossiping, criticizing, trying to push your buttons. Most people would snap back, defend themselves, get pulled into the drama. But what happens when you remain unbothered? When you refuse to give them the reaction they're fishing for? You become untouchable. They lose their power. And here's the beauty: anger doesn't just hurt you. It feeds them. People who try to provoke you thrive off your reaction. They want to see you lose control. When you don't give it to them, you starve their ego. You take the power back. Let me give you a simple exercise. The next time you feel anger rising, stop and ask yourself one question. Do I want to give this person control over me? If the answer is no, then pause. Take a breath, step back. In that moment, you reclaim the space between stimulus and response. That space is everything. That's where clarity lives. That's where wisdom lives. That's where your power lies. Understand this. Anger is energy. When you let it explode, it burns you. When you bottle it up, it poisons you. But when you master it, when you direct it, it becomes fuel. Every time you refuse to be baited, every time you choose calm over chaos, you're building discipline. You're proving to yourself that you are not controlled by emotions. You control them. And the more you practice, the stronger you get. Now, this doesn't mean you'll never feel anger again. Anger is a natural human emotion. But feeling anger and being controlled by it are two very different things. Mastery doesn't mean you never feel it. It means you recognize it, you pause, and you choose what to do with it. You stop letting it choose for you. And here's the most powerful part. When you stop reacting in anger, you don't just change yourself. You change the dynamics of every interaction around you. People begin to treat you differently. They respect your calm. They realize they can't push you, can't manipulate you, can't get under your skin. You set the tone, you lead the energy. That is true power. So the next time you're tempted to say, "They made me angry," stop yourself. No one made you anything. You chose it. And if you chose it once, you can choose differently next time. That's where your freedom lives. That's how you break the chains. That's how you become untouchable. Because the person who cannot be provoked cannot be controlled, and that is the kind of strength that no one can take from you. One of the biggest reasons people get angry or bothered so easily is because they take everything personally. Someone makes a comment, gives a look, forgets to call, and suddenly it feels like a direct attack on your worth. But here's the truth that most people never fully accept. What people say or do is almost never about you. It's about them, their insecurities, their stress, their worldview, their limitations. When you attach your ego to everything, you become fragile. When you detach, you become free. The ego loves to be fed. It thrives on validation, on approval, on being seen and respected. So when you get praise, your ego swells. And when you get criticism, your ego shrinks. But here's the danger. If your identity is tied to the opinions of others, you will forever be on an emotional roller coaster. Every compliment will inflate you. Every insult will deflate you. And guess who has the remote control? Not you. Everyone else. That is no way to live. Imagine a person walking through life like a mirror. Whoever stands in front of them defines what they see. If the mirror reflects kindness, they feel good. If it reflects disrespect, they feel broken. This is how most people operate. They are mirrors for the world around them. But if you want to never be bothered, you cannot be a mirror. You must be the mountain. A mountain does not move when the wind blows. It doesn't crumble when the storm rages. It stands unshakable because it knows what it is. That is the strength you build when you detach from ego. Think about the last time someone criticized you. Did it hurt? Did it replay in your head? Did you feel the need to defend yourself? To prove them wrong? That's ego. Ego screams, how dare they say that about me? But pause and consider, if their words are true, then why get angry? They've simply spoken what is. And if their words are false, why get angry? Lies do not define you unless you accept them. Either way, anger is wasted energy. When you stop taking things personally, you begin to see people for who they really are, not who your ego wants them to be. You realize that the person who lashes out in anger is often hurting inside. The coworker who dismisses your work may be insecure about their own performance. The stranger who insults you online may be projecting their frustration with their own life. The family member who tries to push your buttons may be carrying their own unresolved pain. None of this is truly about you. You just happen to be in the line of fire. And when you understand that, you stop carrying their baggage. You leave it where it belongs, with them. This doesn't mean you tolerate disrespect or pretend negativity doesn't exist. It means you recognize the source and refuse to let it define your inner world. When someone speaks badly of you, you can address it calmly, if necessary. You can set boundaries. You can walk away, but what you cannot do is give them control over your emotions. That is the difference between reacting out of ego and responding out of wisdom. The people who are hardest to deal with are often the ones who are most controlled by their ego. They are constantly offended, always defensive, forever seeking validation. They argue not to find truth, but to protect their fragile sense of self. And when you encounter people like this, you can either mirror their ego back to them, or you can rise above it. Detachment doesn't make you passive. It makes you powerful because you are no longer fighting battles that don't need to be fought. Here's a simple practice. The next time someone says or does something that bothers you, pause and ask yourself, what does this really have to do with me? More often than not, the answer is nothing. They are living in their own story, acting out their own drama. You're just an extra in their play. Don't audition for a role that doesn't serve you. Another key to detaching from ego is humility. Humility doesn't mean thinking less of yourself. It means thinking of yourself less. When you stop centering every interaction around, what does this say about me? You open up space to see reality more clearly. You stop being so quick to feel attacked because you realize that the world doesn't revolve around your feelings. People are not spending their days plotting ways to upset you. Most of the time, they're too busy thinking about themselves. Detachment is also about building an inner sense of worth that cannot be shaken by outside forces. If you know who you are, no insult can redefine you. If you know your value, no rejection can diminish it. If you are grounded in your principles, no opinion can sway you. This is the kind of unshakable confidence that makes others respect you without you ever raising your voice. Let's be real, life will always bring critics. No matter how good you are, someone will find fault. No matter how kind you are, someone will misunderstand. No matter how successful you are, someone will envy. If you let every arrow pierce you, you will bleed out long before your journey is done. But when you detach from ego, you realize the arrows are not meant for you. They're just being shot out of other people's wounds. And instead of bleeding, you let them fall harmlessly to the ground. The highest level of strength is when you can stand in the middle of criticism, judgment, or disrespect and remain calm, not because you're weak, not because you don't care, but because you refuse to hand over your power. You see the storm, but you do not let it enter your soul. You understand that your peace is too valuable to waste on every passing comment or careless act. In the end, detaching from ego is not about being indifferent. It's about being intentional. It's about choosing peace over pride, clarity over chaos, power over pettiness. When you stop taking things personally, you stop being a puppet pulled by the strings of other people's behavior. You step into true freedom, because the strongest person is not the one who wins every argument. It's the one who doesn't need to argue at all. Mastering emotional control is not about suppressing your feelings or pretending they don't exist. It's about developing the ability to regulate your emotions so they don't hijack your mind, your actions, or your decisions. Self-regulation is the discipline that allows you to remain steady in moments where others lose themselves. It's the skill that separates those who are reactive and easily provoked from those who move with intention and power. And the truth is, until you learn to regulate yourself, you will always be at the mercy of whatever storm life throws at you. Let's start with this. Emotions are natural, but they are not meant to control you. They are signals, not orders. Anger, frustration, sadness, fear, these emotions are your system's way of telling you something is happening that needs your attention. But the problem is that most people confuse the signal with a command. They feel anger and immediately lash out. They feel fear and immediately retreat. They feel sadness and sink into despair. Instead of pausing to interpret what the emotion is pointing toward, they let it take the wheel. That's when emotions become dangerous, not when they exist, but when they drive your behavior unchecked. Self-regulation is about creating space between what you feel and what you do. It's about taking a step back and saying, yes, I feel this, but I choose how I respond. That space is everything. Without it, you're a slave to impulse. With it, you become the master of yourself. And the person who can master themselves can master any situation. Think about a time when you were in an argument. Your heart rate increased, your voice got louder, and before you even realized what you were saying, words flew out that you couldn't take back. That's what it looks like to be unregulated. Your body hijacks your mind, and anger becomes the driver. Now imagine that same situation, but instead of reacting, you pause. You take a deep breath. You let the surge of emotion pass through before speaking. Suddenly, you're not just another person lost in conflict. You're the one holding the ground, the one with clarity, the one in control. That's the power of self-regulation. So how do you build it? First, awareness. You cannot regulate what you don't recognize. Pay attention to the signals your body gives you. Do you clench your jaw when you're irritated? Do you feel heat rising in your chest when you're about to lose patience? Do your hands shake when you're anxious? These physical cues are the early warning signs that emotion is about to take over. If you catch it early, you have the chance to stop it before it explodes. Second, breathing. It sounds simple, but it's one of the most powerful tools you have. When you're triggered, your nervous system kicks into fight or flight mode, pumping adrenaline, speeding up your heart, narrowing your focus. Controlled breathing interrupts that cycle. It tells your body, we are safe. Calm down. Inhale slowly. Hold. Exhale even slower. Do this a few times, and you'll feel your mind start to clear. That clarity is the doorway to better choices. Third, reframing. Emotions are often fueled by the story you tell yourself about what's happening. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and you tell yourself, they disrespected me. Anger follows. But what if the story was, maybe they're rushing to the hospital, or maybe they just made a mistake? Instantly, the intensity drops. You can't control what others do, but you can control the meaning you attach to it. And when you change the meaning, you change the emotion. Fourth, practice responding instead of reacting. A reaction is immediate and emotional. A response is thoughtful and intentional. The next time someone says something offensive, before you answer, pause and ask yourself, what outcome do I want here? Will exploding help me or hurt me? That 1-second pause can change everything. Self-regulation is not about denying your feelings. It's about directing them toward an outcome that serves you. Now let's address something important. Some people think self-regulation means being calm all the time. That's not true. There are moments when passion, intensity, and even anger channeled correctly are powerful forces for change. But the difference is this: are you controlling the emotion, or is the emotion controlling you? A regulated person can raise their voice without losing themselves. They can confront without collapsing into rage. They can feel anger but choose to turn it into fuel for action instead of destruction. That is the difference between power and weakness. Another layer of self-regulation is consistency. Anyone can stay calm once or twice, but true mastery comes when you can regulate yourself across situations consistently, no matter who you're dealing with or what's happening. Whether it's your boss criticizing you unfairly, your partner pushing your buttons, or a stranger being disrespectful, your response should come from the same grounded place. Consistency builds reputation. People begin to trust you, respect you, and even fear trying to provoke you because they know you cannot be shaken easily. Let me give you an image. Imagine a candle in the wind. Every gust blows it out. That's an unregulated person, fragile, inconsistent, easily disturbed. Now imagine a lantern protected by glass. The flame still burns, but the winds cannot touch it. That's self-regulation. The emotion is there, but it's shielded. It doesn't get extinguished, nor does it flare out of control. It burns steadily, no matter what storms rage outside. That's the kind of stability you want to build within yourself. The truth is, the world will always test you. People will provoke you. Life will challenge you. Stress will find you. You cannot eliminate triggers, but you can control how you meet them. And when you master emotional self-regulation, you don't just survive these moments, you turn them into opportunities. You show yourself that you are bigger than the chaos. You prove to others that you are someone who cannot be manipulated, and you create a level of inner peace that no one can take away. At the end of the day, emotional self-regulation is freedom. Because the person who cannot control themselves will always be controlled by others. But the person who learns to regulate their inner world becomes untouchable, calm, steady, grounded, powerful. That's the presence you project when you master yourself. And that is the kind of presence that commands respect everywhere you go. One of the greatest breakthroughs you can have in life is realizing that how people treat you says far more about them than it does about you. When someone disrespects you, lies to you, criticizes you, or dismisses you, your natural instinct is to internalize it. You start asking, what did I do wrong? Why don't they value me? What's wrong with me? That line of thinking will always leave you stuck in self-doubt, insecurity, and unnecessary anger. The truth is, people's behavior is rarely a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their own inner world. And once you reframe their behavior through that lens, you free yourself from taking it personally, and you stop giving away your peace so easily. Let's dig into this idea. Think about the person who constantly criticizes others. At first, it feels personal. You wonder why they're picking on you. But if you step back, you realize that a person who lives in constant criticism is usually projecting their own dissatisfaction. They're not really seeing you. They're seeing their own insecurities mirrored back at them. The negativity they pour out is not a measurement of your flaws, but a measurement of their mindset. When you reframe their criticism as a reflection of them, you stop absorbing it as a reflection of you. This applies to rudeness as well. A stranger cuts you off in traffic, or someone snaps at you in a store. The ego says, they disrespected me. I have to respond. But if you pause and remember, that has nothing to do with me. That's about their stress, their rush, their lack of control. Suddenly, your anger loses its grip. Their behavior is not proof of your unimportance. It's proof of their impatience, their inability to regulate themselves. And when you see it that way, you no longer feel the need to carry the weight of their action. Now think about betrayal. Few things sting more than when someone you trust lets you down. It's easy to let bitterness take root and to tell yourself that you weren't worthy of loyalty. But betrayal is never about the value of the person betrayed. It's about the weakness of the betrayer. It shows their lack of integrity, their inability to honor their word, their own moral failings. When you reframe betrayal in this way, you don't excuse it, but you also don't allow it to poison your sense of self. You see clearly, this is not about my worth. It's about their character. Reframing also helps you navigate envy and jealousy. Maybe someone downplays your accomplishments, gives backhanded compliments, or tries to make you feel small. If you take it personally, you'll shrink yourself to avoid their negativity. But when you reframe it, you realize jealousy is a confession. It's them admitting they see something in you they wish they had. Their attempt to dim your light is really a reflection of their own insecurity. So instead of internalizing it, you recognize it as confirmation that you are shining. The key here is understanding projection. People are always projecting their internal state outward. The insecure project criticism, the angry project hostility, the unhappy project negativity, the confident project encouragement, the kind project compassion. What you receive from someone is rarely a direct measurement of you. It's a projection of them. And once you grasp this, you become unshakable. But reframing isn't about letting people off the hook. It's not about tolerating mistreatment or excusing bad behavior. It's about clarity. When you recognize someone's behavior as a mirror of them, you're less likely to waste energy on emotional reactions and more likely to make wise choices. If someone consistently disrespects you, you don't need to get angry. You just set a boundary. If someone criticizes you unfairly, you don't need to fight back. You can calmly decide how much space they deserve in your life. The reframe gives you emotional distance, and that distance gives you power. Here's another powerful truth. People often behave in ways that have nothing to do with you, simply because they are fighting battles. You cannot see that coworker who is short-tempered may be carrying stress from home. That friend who withdraws may be dealing with their own fears or pain. That stranger who lashes out may be walking around with invisible wounds. When you reframe behavior through this lens, you start to move from anger to understanding, not because you excuse bad actions, but because you see they come from a place of struggle. And when you stop taking it personally, you stop adding unnecessary weight to your own shoulders. Reframing also requires humility. If you make everything about you, every comment, every action, every slight, you will constantly feel under attack. But when you step back and remember, not everything is about me, life gets lighter. People are operating from their own stories, shaped by their upbringing, their fears, their trauma, their worldview. You just happen to cross paths with their story. That doesn't mean you caused it or that it defines you. It means you were simply there when their behavior spilled out. This perspective is liberating. Imagine walking through life, knowing that no matter what people do, it doesn't determine your worth. You're no longer reactive because you understand their behavior is their reflection, not your definition. Instead of spiraling into anger when someone mistreats you, you step back and think, this is who they are, and this is how I will choose to respond. That shift transforms frustration into clarity and anger into composure. When you master this skill, you become untouchable. Insults don't land because you know they're not aimed at who you truly are. They're born out of the other person's struggles. Criticism doesn't crush you because you evaluate whether it's constructive or just projection. Disrespect doesn't destabilize you because you know it reveals their character, not your value. And betrayal doesn't break you because you recognize that their choices speak volumes about them, not about your worthiness of loyalty. At its core, reframing people's behavior is about reclaiming control over your emotional state. Instead of letting the world dictate how you feel about yourself, you anchor your sense of identity internally. You say, I know who I am. I know my values. I know my worth, and nothing anyone says or does can take that away from me. That's the kind of strength that can carry you through life without being constantly shaken by the storms of other people's actions. The next time someone treats you poorly, pause before reacting. Step back and ask yourself, what does this reveal about them? And what does it really have to do with me? More often than not, the answer will free you. Because once you learn to reframe behavior, you stop seeing yourself as the target, and you start seeing others for what they are. People projecting their inner world outward. And when you understand that, you no longer carry their weight. You walk lighter, stronger, and unbothered. Anger is energy. That's something most people don't realize. They think of anger as an outburst, a loss of control, a destructive force that leaves damage behind. And yes, when mismanaged, that's exactly what it becomes. But if you step back and look deeper, anger is actually raw energy. It's fuel, and like any form of energy, you get to decide